With the help of Hashem, we are learning Brachas Daf Chof Aleph. We are learning the sugya of Hirur Kedibur Dami or Hirur Laf Kedibur Dami. We had a machlekes between Avina and Rav Chizda. We're going to start learning the source, which should be obvious. From where do we know that Birchas Hamazon is Midoraisa? And we're going to have this gavaldik line here, Brachas Chof Aleph, Minayin LeBirchas HaToira Lefoneha Min HaToira. And as indeed some paskin that the Birchas HaToira that we make is indeed a biblical bracha. Others disagree, and we'll speak out more details, God willing, when we learn the Gemara. We're going to learn a shita in the Gemara that the entire recitation of the Shema is only midrabanan. We're going to learn the shita of Rabbi Yochanan that says halavai, ulavai, that sheyispalel adam kol hayom kulay. The way we will learn, the way Rashi learns that Rabbi Yochanan says that a person can say Shemona Esrei once, twice, thrice, the whole day, without adding anything. Now, according to Rashi, according to Rabbi Yochanan, we're going to learn other Rambam that strongly disagreed with that. That if you want to add another Shemona Esrei, first of all, you shouldn't do it. Or if you want to do it, you have to make a Tefillas Nadava, which means you have to add something in the Shemona Esrei. But if you don't make an addition, then who gave you the right to knock on God's door whenever you want? God invited you in 3 times a day and not more. We're going to have a machlekes, we spoke it out in the last year, between Rashi and Tosfot in the application, or based on the understanding of the rule Shemea Ka'ina, which is a very important machlekes. All of these sugis are so practical when we're davening right now, like we mentioned, and you came to shul late, you came to shul early, and the Tefilla is up to one place, you're up to another place. What could you respond to? What may you not respond to? What do you do when you're in the middle of the Shemona Esrei? And what complicates everything is the rule of Shemea Ka'ina. Shemea Ka'ina means that listening is tantamount to speaking. There are many places in the davening that I'm not allowed to speak out. I'm making a hefsek. We're going to learn on Daf Chafala from Beis and Asmachta for the Tfilas Ezra. And we're going to start dealing with the shita of Rabbi Yehuda that we had in the Mishnah on Daf Chaf Amid Beis. That it appears from Rabbi Yehuda that he doesn't subscribe at all. It appears to Tfilas Ezra, and that will be problematic as we'll get into it. And ultimately, if we'll have time, we'll begin the topic, the sugya of whether we are doirishin smuchin or whether ain't doirishin smuchin. Which means that when we learn Torah, we're not only learning the Torah, we're learning from the fact that one is written before or after another din. In other words, the juxtaposition of everything in the Torah is something that in itself teaches us something. And others disagree with that. Others hold that you don't expound based on juxtapositions. Right. Then we're going to learn a shita that we're not doirish smuchin from the 4 of the 5 chumashim, but from Mishnah Torah you are doirish smuchin, and we'll learn a lot more, God willing. Let's start. We left off by the 2 dots on Daf Chof Aleph Amid Aleph. Right, we are, I think, 7 or 8 lines from the top of the Amid, Amar Rav Yehuda, and let us learn the Gemara with the Bach. Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Rav. Remember these words. Minayin lebirchas hamazon la'achrei min ha'Torah. Shenemar v'achalta v'savata u'verachta. Right, Parshas Ekev, right before Sheni. Now, everyone knows this pasuk, but look at the juxtaposition. Look at the next line. Birchas hamazon is midoraisa. The next line, Minayin lebirchas ha'Torah lefanei min ha'Torah. How do you know that making the birchas ha'Torah before you learn is min ha'Torah? When we emphasize before we learn, we're not even speaking about that nowadays when you get called to the Torah, you make a bracha before and afters. Just to know that in the times of the Gemara, when they finished learning, they made an after bracha. So we're emphasizing that after bracha is only midrabanan. Nowadays we don't even make that. But how do you know that the brachos before, we learned a couple of daf ago, we spoke at a machlekes rishonim, whether it's considered 2 brachos, whether it's 3 brachos, whether it's harivna, whether it is the harivna. How do you know that it's min ha'Torah? Shenemar, because it says in Parshas Ha'azinu, Kishem Hashem Ekra. When I call out the name of Hashem, Havu Goydel Elokeinu, I ascribe greatness to God. Now, Chevre, in Yuma, or like our friend says in Yoima, there we use this pasuk as the source of saying Amen. That when you hear God's name, ascribe greatness by saying Amen. Here, we're learning another chazal, that Kishem Hashem Ekra, Havu Gaidel Elikeinu means making a bracha to the Torah. How does it mean that? Now, Chavra, many people know the Gemara. It's good to know the Rashi. So I'm reading inside the Rashi. Kishem Hashem Ekro. What does that mean? Kishem Hashem Ekro. Says Rashi that Kishaba Moshe Leftoyach B'divrei Shira. When Moshe Rabbeinu was going to begin Parshas Hazinu, Amar Lahem Li Yisrael. He told the Eden, I'm about to start saying Torah, and therefore I have to make a bracha. And you should answer Amen to my bracha. So what Rashi is doing, amazing, is that Rashi is saying that this Chazal goes hand in hand with a more familiar statement that we have in Yuma, that Kishem Hashem Ekra Havu Gadol Elokeinu is the reason why we say Amen. Yeah, it means Amen, but Amen after what? If all Moshe Rabbeinu did was he read Parshas Hazinu, exactly where do you have an Amen? Elama, he was about to learn, which means he has to make a bracha. So he told the Chevra, guys, answer Amen after my Birchas HaTorah. So that is, we know from this verse that he made the Birchas HaTorah, and it's a given that that's a Midoi Raisa. Azoi led into Rashi. Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan says that now that you have a source for benching, which is the blessing after eating, Minat Torah. Now that you have a source for the blessings that we make before we learn Minat Torah, I'm going to give you a Kal V'Chaimer, and Chevra, when you use the Yud Gimel Midois, the conclusion is a Midoi Raisa. Through a Kal V'Chaimer, I'm going to argue that the blessings before eating is also Midoi Raisa, and the blessings after learning is also Midoi Raisa. Well, what are my Kal V'Chaimers? I should argue that Birchas HaTorah after, which we don't make now, they make then, but it was only Midrabanan, it should be Min Birchas HaMazon. We should make a Kal V'Chaimer from Birchas HaMazon through a Kal V'Chaimer, which will make it into a Din Torah, and also Birchas HaMazon Lefanel, what we call now Birchas HaNehenin. I will learn it from a Kal V'Chaimer, from Birchas HaTorah through a Kal V'Chaimer. And he explains himself. Birchas HaTorah lachrei min Birchas HaMazon min Kal V'Chaimer, meaning, when it comes to food, she'ein ton lefanav. Biblically, the Torah never spoke about making a blessing before. But the Torah tells us, v'yachalta v'suvata v'irachta, right? Ton la'achrav. So Torah, she'tu'una lefanea, here's chap, ein adin she'tu'una lachrei. And then he does the same thing the other way around. Then it goes weiter. Birchas HaMazon lefanea, min Birchas HaTorah min Kal V'Chaimer. Uma Torah she'ein tu'na la'achrei, yet tu'na lefanea, so mazon shehu tu'na la'achrav, ein adin she'tu'na lefanav.
You say just the opposite too.
So the Gemara says, I will refute the whole Kal V'Chaimer. Now the Gemara is saying it. It means Rabbi Yechanan, the way you learn Pshat, you can learn Pshat, he's holding it's Takem Minat Torah. But the Gemara says, Nisht. Why? Malamazon shekein nehena. Because when you eat, you have hana'ah. Now, what does hana mean? You say the word pleasure. Well, when you learn Torah, you don't have pleasure. How can you not have pleasure? We spoke out that when we say v'ha'arevna, right, the Egli Tal, the Sachat Shavar, he says that normally we aspire to do mitzvahs lishma. If a yid says, I'm learning Torah because I have hana'ah, that is lishma. Wow. The mitzvah of Torah is to learn it to have pleasure. So what's pshat hana? So I'll explain to you the pshat, and then we'll go a little bit deeper. Nehena means physical benefit. When you eat food, you have physical benefit. It's not good enough, because when you learn Torah, you should also have physical benefit.
Yeah, spiritual benefit.
Who was it? Matilde Shanabaler or Rav Nachum Shanabaler? They were obese from Amin Yehesh Meirabah. They had hana. I'll explain in a moment. And Amalu Torah shekain chaya olam. It gives you eternal life. So that's why you can't learn one from the other. But let's go much better than that. When a person eats, let's go to he has hana'ah. You know something? When a person is hungry, by nature we turn to God. God doesn't have to tell me to talk to him when I don't have food yet. Once you ate and you're satisfied, that's exactly when you forget God. I'm good. So that is where God has to tell no. After you ate, bless me. Let's go to learning Torah. After a Jew learns Torah, he feels connected to God. You don't have to tell a Jew to feel connected to God after learning Torah. You know when you're not connected to God before you begin. So that is where God has to tell you, make a bracha lefanel. Okay. Furthermore, how can you, Rabbi Yechanan, say what you're saying? Kal V'Chaimer is Midoi Raisa. It says in our Mishnah regarding the Balkeri, the Mishnah we learned in the last shiur, Daf Chaf Amid Beis, Al Hamazon, the Balkeri only mevarich in his mind. Afterwards and not before. If you are right, Rabbi Yechanan, If you have a kal v'chomer, so birchas hanehen is minat Torah, so he should be equally obligated. And especially the way we concluded, according to Rav Chisda, right? That you have to do what everyone else is doing. But then at the end he said it's about Doraisa or Darabanan. Doraisa or Darabanan could become completely independent of doing what everyone else is doing. I just want to give an example. If it's about doing what everyone else is doing, what happens if a person eats by themselves? If I only have to bench in my thought not to exclude myself from the tzibur, there's no tzibur.
No, but if you're davening by yourself.
But who said the Mishnah never spoke about davening? Shema, everyone says Shema together. Davening, I mean,
in your house, you wake up, you have to say Shema.
You wake up. Okay, anyways, there's the ways of learning the Gemara we had in the previous shiur, but that's the Nakuda. And the Nakuda is there a change in the Gemara? Is it just a build up to Rav Chisda? But coming back over here, bottom line is ve'ein mavarach lefanav. So all of that is a teyufta that completely refutes the shita of the great Rabbi Yochanan. Says the Gemara weiter, Amar Rav Yehuda. And now we're going to go with the emendation of the Messiah Hashas. Rabbi Yeshaya Pik, Amar Rav Yehuda, Amar Shmuel. Safik kara kriya shema, safik like kara. If a person doesn't remember whether they read the kriya shema or not, what do you think you should tell him to do? Read it again. No. Eino chayzer v'kayra. Don't read it again. But safik amar emes v'yatzav safik lo yamar. If you don't know, now here we're going to learn pshat with Tosfos. You don't know not only whether you said the Shema, your safek includes maybe you also did not say emes v'yatzav, which is the blessing after Shema. So here he says chayzer v'omer emes v'yatzav. So counterintuitive, huh? That means the blessings after Shema you would think is Absamid Rabbanan. Shema is the Hadoiraisa. You would think Safik Doiraisa L'chumra, Safik Rabbanan L'kol Punkt Fakert. And now he explains, my time, this is Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel. Listen to these words. Kriya Shema is the Rabbanan. We're learning Gemara. That's another opinion. It says, B'shach b'chov kumecha, don't worry, the Gemara is going to challenge this, but he has such an opinion. Emes v'yatziv d'oraisa. How is emes v'yatziv d'oraisa? Because in emes v'yatziv, what do we speak about? Yitzias Mitzrayim.
What about Vayomer?
Oh, what about Vayomer? Shkoyach. So now let's understand like this. If a person knows that they said the Shema, Rabbeinu Yoina explains, they only have a suffix whether they said emes v'yatziv, then the Gemara wouldn't say emes v'yatziv is d'oraisa. Even if saying the Shema is only midrabanan, if you already mentioned Vayomer, then you don't have any more today an obligation to remember Esher Mitzeischa Meretz Mitzrayim. The suffix in the emes v'yatziv explains Tosfos. We'll need the Tosfos further also to go further on this concept. Is that he doesn't know? Maybe he said the Shema, maybe he didn't. Maybe he said emes v'yatziv. You understand? Maybe he said neither of them. Maybe he only said one of them. So since the only biblical part is Yitzias Mitzrayim, it's less tircha, just read emes v'yatziv. So they obligated to do what's less troublesome.
How do they have a possibility that he said emes v'yatziv, but he didn't say Shema?
No, that's for sure not. That's for sure not. The possibility is, could be he said nothing,
right, and
could be he said the Shema, not emes v'yatziv. That's the doubt. Yeah. Could be he said nothing, and could be he said the Shema, not emes v'yatziv. So in other words, based on this rule that the Shema is only midrabanan, the only biblical obligation is Yitzias Mitzrayim. So listen, could be he said the Shema, but it's a suffix. So you don't tell a Yid, read Vayomer. There's no Vayomer. You read the whole Shema, or read emes v'yatziv, read emes v'yatziv. Frek Gemara, how can you hold that Shema is midrabanan? It says, Ubishach b'chov kumecha. It's so, the Gemara always does it. We're up to Daf Chaf Aleph, right? The first Mishnah, it took it so for granted that you're obligated to say the Shema. It begins from when do you have to read the Shema? And now we're waking up, the whole B'shach b'chov kumecha means something else. Amar le'abaya, you know what? You know what you have to speak about when you lay down, when you wake up? Who said the Shema? B'divrei Torah ha'ksiv. Frek the Gemara from our Mishnah. Hold on. It said in our Mishnah, Naf Chafam Beis, Bal Keri, since he may not say words of Torah, and that extends to the Shema, so Maharer Beliboy, he thinks the words in his heart. And he doesn't even think in his heart, not the blessings before, not the blessings afterwards. Right? When it comes to Birchas Hamazon, we said, yes, he has in mind the Birchas Hamazon afterwards, but not before. Frag the Gemara, if you hold, it's an Amoyre, Rabbi Yehuda, Amar Shmuel, the Salka Daitoch, Emes V'yatzav Deoraisa. And again, what was the maskana that we had on top of this Amid according to Rabbi Chizda? That what do you have to think, even though you can't speak? A biblical obligation. So then, Livrech La'achra. Answers the Gemara, no. Here, you read the Shema. You thought the Shema, like we just mentioned. Once you read the Shema, then Emes V'yatzav is no longer Midoraisa. Because if the whole mitzvah is just the Midoraisa Yitzias Mitzrayim, you covered that if you said the Shema. If you have a safek, so since you have a doubt, do the least. The least is Emes V'yatzav. My Tama Mevarech, Imishum Yitzias Mitzrayim Ha'at Kalei B'Kriyas Shema. I v'neima ha v'loy lebayaha. So hold on, going back to our Mishnah, right? This person is a Balkeri. He knows he said nothing. He has to say one of the two. So why doesn't the Mishnah think Emes V'yatzav? That's also her tzvika here. That's also less troublesome. Oy bazoy v'neima ha Emes V'yatzav v'loy lebayaha. So here the Gemara answers that when you said nothing, there is another part of the Shema. Even if you hold that Shema, the recitation of Shema is only midrabanan, Shema has in it Kabbalas oil. And it has Vayomer. So when you didn't say it, Shema trumps. But when you have a doubt, since maybe you said it, you only lohoitzi midei sfeika, and it could even be you said the whole Shema. You're only repeating it, maybe you didn't say it. Here he holds his ground that you only say Emes V'yatzav. At Khan, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel, that was not refuted. And we don't paskin this way, but wow. Rabbi Lazar Amar, absolutely not. He argues. He says, Safek Kara Kriyashma, Safek Kara, you bet. Chayzer v'Kara Kriyashma. You know why? Because the recitation of Shema is a biblical obligation. However, Safek Ispalel, Safek Lo Ispalel, if a person has a doubt whether they daven Shemona Esrei or not, don't forget, you're davening Shemona Esrei, Mela the Shema, you're reading words in the Chumash. By Shemona Esrei, you're taking Hashem's name. So he says, Eina Chayzer Mispalel. You may not repeat the Shemona Esrei. However, Rabbi Yechanan says, we're going to learn Gemara with Rashi. Ulavai sheyispalel adam kol hayom kulei. Halavai you daven the whole day. So if I lechatchila can daven Shemona Esrei and anachamol Shemona Esrei and anachamol Shemona Esrei without adding anything, according to Rashi, Rabbi Yechanan doesn't ascribe to the whole concept of Tefillas Nadav, which we'll explain in a few moments. You daven Shemona Esrei. So if you have a doubt, of course you can repeat it. There was a Hasidic Yid by the name of Avraham. When I was in the yeshiva in 770, he was already in his elder years, and he probably had some sort of illness that his memory was not good. And he used to daven the whole day. Took him many hours to daven. And then after he finished davening, imagine he davens for 5 or 6 hours because of an illness. He forgot whether he davened. So he used to say that a davening that you don't remember is nishkan davening. He would daven again. Wow. Okay. Now, the way Rashi learns, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Shmuel argues with Rabbi Yechanan. You can't stam daven Shemona Esrei. However, if you are already in middle of the Shemona Esrei and v'niskar sheyispalel and you remembered that you already davened, so what should you do now? So poisek afilu be'emtza bracha, stop in middle. Wow. Mamish the opposite of Rabbi. Look inside the Rashi.
We don't know.
Let's look inside the Rashi. Rashi is gavaldik. When Rabbi Yechanan says ulavai sheyispalel adam kol hayom, so Rashi quotes. It's good to know. There's a sefer called the Halachas Gedolos. The Halachas Gedolos is a sefer written in the times of the Go'anim. Many people hold that it was written by a Rab Shimon Kiyara. It's a very important halachic sefer. So the Rashi quotes that in Halachas Gedolos he paskins like Rabbi Yechanan only when there's a doubt. That's how we know how Rashi understands Rabbi Yechanan. Rabbi Yechanan holds you can daven and daven and daven. He only passes if you have a doubt, then you can rely on the sheet of Rabbi Yechanan. But if you know that you davened, you may not daven another additional prayer. Now I want to get ahead of myself. But if a person daven Shemona Esrei again, and they add something in that Shemona Esrei, now there's halachas about it. A lot of halachas, where you can add, where you cannot add. It has to be me'ein habracha. You have to know where to add it. You can add a prayer in Shemaya Tefilla. There's another inyan b'chlal that if you're davening in Lashon HaKodesh, which we ideally should, if you want to add, you have to add in Lashon HaKodesh. You don't speak to Hashem in two different languages in the same Shemona Esrei. So there's many details of how to add, but what do you accomplish when you add? You make that tefillah into a tefillas nadava. Tefillas abamakam karbanis. So there's a chiyuv, tamid and tamid, shachris and mincha. But just like in the Beis Hamikdash, you can bring as many karbanis, oilois that you want. So you can make your tefillah into a tefillas nadava when you add something. But medvaram amurim, that from the outset you're davening a donated davening by adding something in the Shemona Esrei. But here he began davening a normal Shemona Esrei. In middle he chapped, I already davened. Just like one carbon, you can't in middle of the carbon, you designated it for a chayiv, you can't in middle say, no, it's a nadava. Or a nadava, the same carbon can be both. There's no 50-50. So if you already began davening, you have to stop. Gewaldig. Fragt die Gemara eini. V'ha'amar Rav Nachman kavinan bei Rabba Baravua ba'on minei. We asked of him, Hanu b'nei bei Rav, young students. These things happen when people are not concentrating as much as they should. That the to'u umat kirei dechoil b'Shabbos. This is so classical. You're davening Shemona Esrei, right? So Friday night is Kedusha. Shabbos morning is Yismach, Moshe. Shabbos afternoon is Ata Echad. So you're davening, you're habituated. So you finish Hokel HaKadosh, Shabbos, and you begin Ata Chaynin. So what should you do? And he told us, finish that bracha. Hold on. You're telling me that you have to stop in the middle of the bracha. Here we allow you to end the bracha. It's so good to learn. Listen to this. So he says, how can you compare one case to the other? Hassan, Shabbos, Gavra bar chiyuvahu. The Gemara says that theoretically, Shabbos, we are obligated to daven the Shmoyne Esrei. Now it's the 19th brachas. The only reason why we don't daven the real Shmoyne, the 18th prayer on Shabbos, v'rabbanan hu yatrichu mishum kavod Shabbos. The Gemara here. Now you have so many other opinions that on Shabbos you're not supposed to ask for your personal needs. Here the Gemara is saying, really you have to daven. So therefore, if you made a mistake, you're not doing anything against what really should be anyways. So that's why I finished that bracha. But over here, hot solidly, you already davened. And we don't paskin like Rabbi Yechanan. So you can make a tefillas nadava. Very nice, thank you. But you can't, in middle of the Shemona Esrei, transform it if it began as a tefillas chayva. Now, another halach. Classical cases. You davened already. You walked into a shul. You davened alone. Davening alone versus davening with a minyan is insignificant. So the question is, should you daven again? To daven with the tzibur. So, so here, he
davened already by himself.
I daven shachris at home, wrongly, and now I come into shul rightly, and now they're up to Shemona Esrei. So what do? If I'm able to be machadish badavar, you have to know the dinim. You have to know where to add and how to add. But if you add something to the Shemona Esrei, making it into a tefillas nadava, we do not pasken the way Rashi learns in Rabbi Yechanan. So then yachzer v'yispalo. But ve'im lav al yachzer v'yispalo. Now, really, it appears that Rav Yehuda Mar Shmuel, who gave us two dinim, they're basically the same din. Same din is that if you want to add another Shemona Esrei, you have to make it into Tefillas Nadava. But still, it was two different cases. One case is you walked into a shul, and the other case is you chapped the middle, you got to stop. And he needed to say both, right? You can't stand repeat the Shemona Esrei and Paisik Ba'em. So one will not be learned from the other, explains the Gemara. The first thing is that when you realize you already davened, you have to stop in the middle. Hanamili, you know why you have to stop in the middle? Because you already davened. So when you're davening again, you're doing something completely superfluous, and that's disrespectful to God. And that's either if you davened before B'Yechidus, and now you repeated the Shemona Esrei, again B'Yechidus, when you realize the middle that you davened, or Daf Chaf Aleph Amevez Oit Tzibur V'Tzibur, But maybe if you davened in your house, be yechidus, and now you walked into a tzibur, one can argue, Keman deloit sali dami. It's as if you didn't daven yet. And maybe he would say that you can daven the Shemona Esrei even without making that into a tefillas nadava. That's why he needed to say you need to do that. If he only would have spoken about repeating it, yachad and tzibur, that you may not, unless it's a nadava, mishum deloy aschal, because you didn't begin it. But the first case that we learned was Aval Hasam, the aschil, well, here to stop in the middle is also not right. So Emaloi Tzricha. Next case, Amar Rav Huna, Hanichnas LaBeis HaKnesses. You walk into shul, Umatzah Tzibur Shemispalalim. And again, they already began davening the Shemona Esrei. You came late. Not you, someone else came late. If you are able to start and to finish your silent Shemona Esrei before the Baal Tefillah is up to Moedim, then Yispalel, daven now. But ve'im lav al Yispalel. But if you know from your speed of davening, from that Shliach Tzibur speed of davening, that you won't have enough time to finish your own Shemona Esrei by the time they're up to Moedim, you may not start. Wait until after Moedim. Why? Look inside the tosfot. Actually, yesh until Moedim. V'tama lefi shetzarech lo shuach. You have to bow down by Moedim. The Rebbe's minig was he didn't only bow down when he began the words Moedim D'Rabbanan, but the Rebbe remained bowed the whole Moedim D'Rabbanan. And whoever does not bow down when everyone else is bowing down, it gives the appearance of the person denying the Moedim to God Almighty, God forbid, right? If you're not going to, you have to bow down. That's the issue here. And therefore, says Tosfos Gavaldik, based on his understanding. What happens if you came so late to shul, you cannot begin and finish your Shemona Esrei before Moedim. But you can begin the Shemona Esrei and you can reach the silent Moedim at the same time that the Baal Tefillah is up to Moedim. So then both of yous, meaning the Shliach Tzibur, the whole community, and you will be bowing down. So that will be okay. Says Tosfos. V'huadin nami im yagia l'moedim kisher shliach tzibur yagia l'moedim the shaper dami, because given shehu mishtachve im chaveirav avol ein gemara psikalei kai gavna. Okay, then I want to go further. I'm reading weiter in Tosfos. I'm going a few lines down to Rabbeinu Tam. The Rabbeinu Tam hoye ragel kisher hoye mispalo the yachid. When the chazan came to Moedim, you know what he did? He bowed down without saying. Was when he was on Shemona Esrei. What happens if it's too late? You're in the middle of Shemona Esrei. Everyone is saying Moedim. What did he do? He bowed down. Says, scoot on another few lines. Rashi writes in Sukkah, in Periscope HaGoizel, that if a person is davening Shemona Esrei and he hears Kaddish or Kedusha, if he cannot stop to answer, he should be silent and listen. This is what we do now. We stop. We actually wait until the Baal Tefillah finishes Hakel HaKodesh. So even though you can't say it, Shemei HaKoina, Shemei so quotes Tosfos from Rashi in Sukkah. Says Tosfos that both the Rabbeinu Tam, his grandchild, and the Ri, Hayoimrim, that's the end of the world. You're not allowed to do what the Zayda said to do. Why? Because if Shemei HaKoina, how can you stop and listen if you're talking out in the middle of Shemona Esrei? Notice, you see there's a machlokes. Rashi understood Shemei Ka'ina that it's not mamish Ka'ina. It's enough Ka'ina to get the best of both worlds. Right? To have the cake and to eat the cake, whatever the lashon is. No, he goes it all the way. Both Rabbeinu Tam and the Ri understand Shemei Ka'ina mamish. Now we paskin like Rashi. Like the Zayda. Coming back over here. Shua ben Levi, Amar, Im Yochel HaHaschir V'Ligman Achelo Yagia Shliach Tzibur L'Kedusha. Then Yispalel. Ve'im Lav Al Yispalel. Now, by Moedim we learned the reason, because you have to give the appearance of bowing down, because if not, it looks like you're denying you're a kaifer. But what's the Kedusha? What's the importance of you saying Kedusha with the Tzibur or not? So the Gemara gives a gavaldik way of understanding it. That b'mayko miflige, mar sovar yochid omer Kedusha. One holds that when you daven by yourself, you say the Kedusha in the Shemona Esrei for yourself. So you don't have to chap the kedusha of the tzibur. You're not losing it if you daven by yourself. We don't pass. Umar savar en yocher oimer kedusha. So therefore, wait, daven in a way that you're not going to lose the kedusha. And again, we just walk out. And if you didn't, so we pass like Rashi that you stop and you listen. Now the chay,
which is Rav Huna.
Which is correct. How do you know that if you're not davening with the tzibur, a yachid cannot say kedusha? As it says, famous, this is the mitzvah of Mesiras Nefesh. But this is a pasuk in Emor. God says, sanctify me betoich b'nei Yisrael. And there's a rule, the kol davar shebekadusha lo yehi pachus masara. How do you see it from V'negdashti? The Tani Rabbi Noi, right? Rabbi now, Achua de Rabchia Baraba, Asya Toich. It says over here V'negdashti b'toich b'nei Yisrael. It says over there in Parshas Koirach, Moshe Rabbeinu said, He bodlu, separate yourselves, mitoich ha'eda hazois. Now, who was he referring to? To the wicked spies. Two of them were kosher, Yeshua and Kalev. So he's referring to 10. So Ma'alahal and Asara, Afkan Asara. Now there is one Chazal that has another Toich. Everyone has Toich. There's a pasuk in Miketz, right? We read not long ago that Vayavoy b'nei Yisrael lishboir gedenkst betoich haboyim. How many brothers of Yosef came down? 10. The reason why the Gemara doesn't bring that is because if we would have used that Toich, one mistakenly would have thought that you know what a minion is a minion, and all of the 10 people are tzaddikim, like the brothers of Yosef. The beauty of this Toich is that we're bringing a Gzeira Shava from Rishoyim to learn that if you're a Jew, you're a Jew, and you have a godly soul. And whenever 10 Jews get together, no matter who they are, the Shechina Sharia. Now, back over here. Uda kola alma mia, but everyone agrees.
That's why a rush could be counted.
Very good. Right. Yes, Uda kola alma mias, mifsak loy pasik. You know, one thing is clear, that when you are davening, you may not interrupt. Good. Iba Elohu, no, you can't interrupt to say Moedim. You cannot interrupt to say Kedusha. There's one Havamina. Guys, we learned on Dav Gimel about the koyach of Amen Yehesh Meiraba, that this is the greatest prayer. That Hashem shakes his head and look on the beautiful what Hashem says. It brings the redemption, it brings Mashiach. And just to know another thing, we're learning about Shema. You know what Yehesh Meiraba is an interpretation of? Yehesh Meiraba is Aramish. What is the Hebrew? Baruch Shem Kavod Malchus Elohelam Vod. That we say silently. But here we're speaking in Aramish. And Malachim either don't understand or they don't want to listen to Aramaic. We'll speak about that another time. So we say it loud. So they wanted to know, that was their text. Could you, in your middle of Shemana Esrei, can you say Yehei Shmei Rabba? Or not? Ki Aser Avdimi Omar, that Rabbi Yehuda and Rab Shimon, not the Tanoim, the Amoraim, the Talmidim of Rabbi Yechanan, Omni, they both say, La koil ein mafsikin. You cannot interrupt your silent Shemana Esrei. Chutz min yehei shmoi hagadol mevayrach. Sha'afilu oisik b'maisem MERCAVA. You are learning the most esoteric part of the Torah. And there, if you're going to unfocus yourself, you're going to fall and you'll get hurt spiritually. Paisik.
We don't pass like this, though.
The Gemara says, V'lei silchas hakavos. Okay. Rabbi Yehuda, now let's begin, Chevre, with analyzing the Tana Rabbi Yehuda. So the Mishnah speaks about a Balkeri. A Balkeri may not articulate the words of Torah. Even though we're going to learn on Chav Beis that the words of Torah can never become Tamei, we're going to get into the Sugya. All right, but we call this the concept of Tfilas from Toivel, from going to the Tfilas Ezra. And that's why the whole Mishnah says, well, if you can't say the Shema, which is an extension of this takana, think the words of Shema, think that which is Midoraisa. Rabbi Yehuda says, no. Now, we have to know what he means. Does he mean in his thought? Does he mean articulating? As we will learn the Gemara according to the Ritva, that Rabbi Yehuda says, speak it out. Lememra, the Kosova, Rabbi Yehuda, that Baal Keri Mutter B'divrei Torah. How can it be? Does Rabbi Yehuda, and we're going to have a lot of back and forth, we're not going to finish the whole back and forth in the shiur, but just to halt up in this. Are you telling me that Rabbi Yehuda holds that a Balkedi is allowed to articulate words of Torah? V'ha'amar Rabbi Shua ben Levi. Minayin lebalkedi she'asa b'divrei Torah. Now, even though it says shenemar b'chlal, when you learn gemara, shenemar doesn't always mean a midoiraisa. It can mean a asmachta. But even if it means an asmachta, if it leads to this understanding, for you to argue with it, you have to have a certain explanation. And what's the shenemar? So it says in Parshas Vo'es Chanan, this is the mitzvah about you should let them known to your children. That's teaching your children Torah. And right afterwards it says Yoim Asher Amadata. Remember the day that you stood around Har Sinai. And Mal Alon, like we learned at Rashi in the last year, Bal Kiryon Asurim. This we know from the Chumash, from the mitzvah of Perisha, that a Balkedi was not allowed to be present, even though no one spoke. But Shemei Koina, we were speaking halachically, legally. And therefore, we cannot be a Balkedi. Afkan, whenever we are teaching the words of Torah, a Balkedi and is Asurin. From the juxtaposition of two verses in the portion of Eschanan, which is in the book of Mishnah Torah. And well, maybe he doesn't ascribe to the whole limud of juxtapositions. That's not correct. Because and that could be Rabbi Yehuda, the Mishnah Torah Darish. We do learn juxtapositions in Mishnah Torah. The Maharatz Chayes, right? He had a PhD. He was a big Jew. Not that that's a yichus, but it's interesting that he's printed in the back of the Gemara. He writes, beautiful, what will be the logic? So he says like this. He quotes in Gittin, on Daf Ayin Aleph, there's a question, how did God give us the Torah through Moshe? The two options are Megillah, Nitla. Megillah means it was given a piece at a time. And that's particularly is true when it comes to the real parshas, not what we call today a parsha, this week's parsha, it's this week's sedra. A parsha is, if you look in a siddur, there's a samach and a pei. A samach or a pei. In the Sefer Torah, there's empty spaces, either 9 letters empty or the whole line is empty. Every parsha there's a break in the Torah. Now, how long was the break? So one opinion is that the whole Torah was given a piece at a time. Megillah nitna. The other option he brings, it's called that Torah chasuma nitna. This is very logical. That means God gave us the whole Torah at one time. If God gave us the Torah the whole time, then of course you can learn from juxtapositions. Why did God teach this after that? But that's if this came after that. But if in the beginning it was given at completely separate times, then there's no juxtaposition. And therefore he says Mishnah Torah was given at the same time. Mishnah Torah, we know, was said by Moshe Rabbeinu in the last few days of his life, the last 30 some days of his life. So that's why L'Kula Alma, we are Doirish Smuchen from Mishnah Torah. This Asmachna was from Mishnah Torah. So that we're challenging Rabbi Yehuda. Now let's read it inside. Again, even that's what Rabbi Yosef says, but Mishnah Torah Doirish. The Rabbi Yehuda, indeed, the Tanach Rabbi Yehuda, loy darish smuchen, b'chala Torah kula. Yet, the Mishnah Torah, we know that Rabbi Yehuda is darish smuchen. And now we explain. So we have a kasha, but before we answer the question, we're going to prove how Rabbi Yehuda is not darish smuchen in the 4 of the Chumashim, and he is darish smuchen by the 5th. B'chala Torah kula minalan, that Rabbi Yehuda is not darish. The Tanya we learned, Chavre Ben Azai says, a pasuk in Mishpatim, you think Mishpatim is all about monetary laws. No. We may not let live a sorceress. Now, what exactly do you do to her? How do you not let her live? It doesn't say. In the Torah, there are 4 ways that someone, right, can have the capital punished, executed. The Nemar, it says in the next verse, in Mishpatim, Kol shoichev v'mehema, if a person does a deed of bestiality, mois yumas. So Ben Azai says the fact that these two things are juxtaposed, and by the way, there's a samach in between. That's mamish 2 different parshias. What's the penalty for bestiality? Skila, look inside the Rashi, Sanhedrin, where we know that from. Now that we have a smichus, af machshefa, that's how I know that she gets killed through skila. B'chlal doesn't only go to a woman. Rashi says in Chumash Diber HaKosav B'hoive, but however you define sorcery, if someone practices sorcery, it's a capital sin, and the punishment is skila. Amalei Rebbe Yehuda, our Rabbi Yehuda, guys, the first medium-sized line, just because of that, I disagree with this whole way of learning. Just because it's juxtaposed, thank you, garnished. Ella, how do I know that? Oh, Oivi Yadoini are two specific ways of practicing sorcery. Oiv is called in English necromancy. Many Brazilians, they communicate to the dead. What's that called? A spiritismo, and the great Simchas Torah over there. So that is a Isur Dorais. That's Oiv. Yadoini, there's a bird whose name is Yadua, and if you put that bone in your mouth, we're not allowed to do that, under your tongue, then you begin speaking the future. That's how good the bird tastes, right? I don't know however it works. So you can't do that. Now, Oiv and Yadoini, Bechlal Kol HaMachashrim Hayu. And the question is that God says in Mishpatim, you can't practice Kishuv, and in many other places. But at the end of Parshas Kedoshim, it says specifically about the practice of Oiv and Yodoini. Oiv and Yodoini should be put to death by stoning. Now these are two specific subcategories in Kishuv. Now V'lama Yatsu, why did Hashem specify these two and giving you the punishment? So that's Chevra we say every day, or we should at least say every day, the Yud Gimel Midas of Rabbi Yishmael. And the 8th Midah is Kol Davar Shoy B'chlal, V'yatza min HaKlal Lilamed, Loy Lilamed al Atzma Yatza, Ela Lilamed al HaKlal Kol Yatza. Now we're getting educated. This is an example. Means if something is included in a klal, and then God in one place speaks about one part of that klal, and He tells you another detail. That other detail isn't only for the subcategory. That's to teach you for the whole category. Oh, v'lama yatzu lahakish lahem v'loy melach ma oy v'yadoini b'skila. That's clearly at the end of Kedoshim. Af b'chlal machshefas b'skila. So here we see that Rabbi Yehuda rejects smuchin. But we're speaking about Smuchin from Mishpatim. That's the second book. Ube Mishnah Torah, how do we know that even Rabbi Yehuda, yes, is Doirish Smuchin? The Tanya. Rabbi Eliezer Oimer, a whole other din. Noise Adam Anusas Aviv Mefutas Aviv. Even though a man is not allowed to marry his father's wife, nor his son's wife, but a man is allowed to marry a woman that, God forbid, his father raped or his father seduced. In other words, if his father had a relation with a woman out of wedlock, according to the Tana Rabbi Eliezer, this is not included in the arayos on the son. Both anusas aviv umefutas aviv, and anusas benoi umefutas benoi. The arayos that we read on Yom Kippur from Achrei Mois is on the wife, on a legally married wife. However, Rabbi Yehuda says no. Rabbi Yehuda says that ba'anusas aviv u'mefutas aviv, that a woman with whom one's father had a relation out of wedlock, with her consent, without her consent, out of wedlock, is also included in the arayos. The son may not have a relation with her. What's the source of Rabbi Yehuda? And he answers. And here we're quoting a pasuk in Parshas Kiseitze, that's Mishnah Torah. It says, "L'yikach ish es eishes aviv." Right? You can't marry your father's wife. V'lo yigale kanaf aviv. Don't uncover your father's robe. What is the pshat? Your father's robe? Kanaf shira aviv lo yigale. And kanaf shira aviv lo yigale means a woman even out of wedlock. How do you know that? Because the samachle, here we're doirish smuchin. Right before, the pasuk before that, we finished the whole din of a man, God forbid, that was ma'anas another woman. Look over there. So in other words, the fact that there's a juxtaposition of one and the other, that's the source for Rabbi Yehuda understanding that Kanav Aviv even means a woman out of wedlock. So we see that Rabbi Yehuda is doirish smuchin. So all of this is back to the kasha. How can Rabbi Yehuda say in our Mishnah that a Balkeri, right, says the brachas before and after? Why? What does he do with the drasha of Ezra or Rabbi Shua ben Levi? Answers the Gemara Amri in the Mishnah Torah Darish. True, and we have the psukim of Rabbi Shua ben Levi. And we're doirish, but not this, something else. V'hani smuchin mibayle leidach to Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Talmud Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Kol hamalab lebnei Torah. Guys, the widest line. Whoever teaches his son Torah, mala all of akosef keilu kibla mahar chayrev. It's as if he received the Torah from Mount Sinai. What's the connection? I'll tell you what the connection is. Because we were very close to God on Har Chayrev. And even though we use the words Kabbalah, right? Moshe Kibel, but he passed it on. Because the pshat of being a recipient doesn't mean to receive. A recipient, the taich and chassidus of a mekabel is you receive, you develop, and what you give is even more than what you received. Like a woman giving birth. In other words, when we were by Har Sinai, that experience, of course, God was doing the talking, we were doing the listening. But it was more than that. We listened in a way that we were close to God. We became godlike. Godlike means we're not just taking, we're not just receiving, we're also sharing. So when a Yid Taka teaches a son Torah, it's gavaldik because it's a new generation. So you have to make a new effort. There should not be a generation gap. So you have to develop it, you have to present it differently, the same Torah. So now it's as if you got the Torah from Har Chayrev. And how do we know that? From this juxtaposition, because it says, teach, let your children, let your grandchildren know. And it says right afterwards, so b'meila what? So there is no, he doesn't have a drasha. He has the smuchin for something else. So indeed we are starting that Rabbi Yehuda rejects the whole takana of Ezra. Now we're going to challenge it. Let's chap it another few lines over here. Check the Gemara Tanan. Let's try to get into Daf Chav Beis at least. We learned in a Mishnah, Zav Shira Akeri. Gavaldik Dinim. Then he loves it. Here we go. So we have Din Tatara. If there's a normal seminal emission that makes the man, or if it leaves the woman, a balkeri, then you have a unnatural seminal emission. You have a nida, daf lamed daled, daf lamed hey, Rav Huna. Look over there exactly. It's a different texture. The avid is mace. It's an unnatural seminal emission that if a person only had one, he is like a balkeri. But if a man saw two, either on the same day or on 2 consecutive days, one after the other, he becomes a zav. A zav has a much higher level of tumah. Now, what happens if you have a zav that he also saw a keri? Now let me share something amazing. The whole takana, as we'll learn, God willing, in the next sugyas, of a balkeri not being allowed, at least at a time then, was not allowed to say the words of Torah, was dafka a balkeri. Because it's all connected to the fact that normally a man becomes a balkeri when he has a relation with his wife, and it's connected to that. A zivus emission has nothing to do with a man having a relation with his wife. There is no problem with the zav saying the words of Torah. But a zav is very tummy. Not only that, if a balkeri goes to the mikveh, like we mentioned, even though if he's a kohen, if it's for dinei truma, for dinei kachim, he has to wait until the night. For the dinim of a asur divrei Torah, whether you can say the words of Torah, you don't wait until the night. The mikveh takes away the issue. If a person is a zav and a keri, now he sees a keri. So here the question is, going to the mikveh won't make that person tired anyways. And we'll see how this affects our dinim. Or similarly, a woman who's already a nida. And now, as we mentioned, that even when zera leaves a woman's body, she also has a din of a balkeri. Now, even if she'll go to the mikvah, she's a nida with all the dinim, you can't go to the mikvah right away. Or a third case. The third case is first hamish hameshes. First she had a relation with her husband, which means she became a balkeri, and then she saw dam nida. The similarity between all of these cases is that even if the person is going to go to the mikveh to resolve the balkeri issue, they are anyways going to remain tamei. The Tanach says tzrichin tvila. No, if you want to say words of Torah, that's that error. That if you want to say words of Torah, you have to go to the mikveh. However, Rabbi Yehuda poiter. Look inside Rashi. Kosalka daitach. The initial understanding of Rabbi Yehuda is that since this person, by going to the mikveh, won't become fully tahar anyways, so then that person doesn't have to go to the mikveh. Now, when Rabbi Yehuda says he shouldn't go to the mikveh, he didn't mean don't go to the mikveh and don't say words of Torah. So now the Gemara says like this: At kanle pater Rabbi Yehuda. When did he say, okay, this guy doesn't have to go to the mikveh, he can say words of Torah anyway? That was Ella Bezav Shara Keri. Before he saw a Keri, he was a Zav. Since the Mi'ikara Lav Bar Tfilahu, like we mentioned before, that a Zav doesn't have to go to the mikveh to say words of Torah. Even Takanas Ezra was not on the Zav. So since, you get it, Danny, since he's a Zav, so he already had an exemption. Even though he was Tameh, he could learn Torah. So Rabbi Yehuda says, if he has a Keri now, he can still learn Torah. Avol Bal Keri Gereida is Chayiv. That seems to contradict Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah. And v'chi teima hu adin dafilu Bal Keri Gereida nami pater Rabbi Yehuda. And the reason why this Mishnah, v'hai dekam mifligei, that they only spoke about 3 lines from the bottom. A Zav that later saw a Keri was only to tell you the Chiddush, the Koyach of the Chachamim that hold that even though he cannot become Tahir anyways, he has to go to the mikveh to say words of Torah. That will not fit in the Seifa, Ema Seifa, because we learned 3 cases. The first 2 cases is that there was a greater Tumah, and then they saw a Keri. And the third case of the Mishnah was the opposite. First she had a relation with her husband. That means first she became a Balas Keri. And then she saw Dam or Dam Nida. And here again, the Tanakama says, or the Mishnah says, she has to go to the mikveh. Now what's the novelty? For whom did we write this case, asks the Gemara. If you're writing this case for the Rabbanon, there's no need for that. Because Hashto Mazav, in the case where first you were a Zav and then you were a Keri. And like we mentioned, the Zav who's Tamei does not need to go to the mikveh. Nevertheless, the Mikara Lav Bar Tfilahu. Yet, the Chachamim are mechayiv you to go to the mikvah. So if a woman first becomes a Balkeri, because she had a relation when she was allowed to have a relation, so there's Zera in her, the Zera left her body, she's a Balkeri. And now she saw Dam or Dam Nida, that she already was mechayiv to go to the mikvah, then of course she has to go to the mikvah. But just because she became more Tamei, she should be exempt from going to the mikvah for a Balkeri. So it's certainly not written to tell you the opinion of the Chachamim. So it must be, Elo, Lav, that it's written to tell you the din of Rabbi Yehuda, that what? V'dafke ketani law. Turning to Daf Chav Beis. That mishameshes v'ro'asa nida eino tzricha tefilla. And that's a big novelty of Rabbi Yehuda. Why? Because since now she's a nida, and if she goes to the mikveh now, she anyways will not become tahira. So therefore, Rabbi Yehuda says it's like a big chiddush that her becoming more tamei. We're going with the premise that Rabbi Yehuda says that a Balkeri may not say words of Torah. But if now there's a greater tumah, since the mikveh won't help for the greater tumah, you can say words of Torah. It's like a big chiddush. But it's only because you became more tamei, and the mikveh won't resolve the greater tumah. Second line, avol balkeri gereida mechayev. And this seems to contradict Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah. So the Gemara, we're going to stop here. So the Gemara says you did not learn the Mishnah correctly. Loi tema mevarech. That the Rabbi Yehuda in our Mishnah does not allow a balkeri to say anything. It says in Daf Chaf Amid Beis, Rabbi Yehuda mevarech lefnei v'lachneim. You know what he means? He means only maharer. Now, he's saying to be maharer, even amid Rabbanon, but he's saying to be maharer based on the current understanding. We'll stop over here. Rabbi Yehuda agrees to the Tanakama that a balkeri may not articulate words of Torah, and in extension may not say the Shema. In extension may not daven. In extension may not say brachas. The only question in the Mishnah is, the Mishnah says, nevertheless, be maharer, think these words, and the Tanakama, as we learned, at least the opinion of Rabbi Chizda, differentiates between Do'eraisa versus the Rabbanan. Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with that. He's being more machmer. Mevarech lifnei v'lachrei means maharer lifnei v'lachrei. So is where we're leaving off. God willing, in the next year we're going to come back and we're going to clarify what exactly is the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda.